My grandpa paid for my nursing school, but I was still working hospital nights thinking I had lost my dream. Then I found out my sister had used my tuition for her perfect wedding. So I brought the proof to her rehearsal dinner and watched every lie fall apart. The first time I saw my nursing school tuition again, it was not inside a classroom, not on a college receipt, and not beside a set of clean clinical scrubs. It was hanging from my sister's wedding dress in a bright boutique mirror, stitched into white silk, pearl buttons, and a train so long 2 women had to lift it off the floor. My grandfather had paid for my future. My sister wore it to become a bride. And my mother stood beside her, smiling like nothing had been stolen at all. My name is Brynna Calder Stroud, and at 29, I worked at Merrow Falls Regional Hospital as a patient care tech. Not a nurse. Not yet. That yet had been keeping me alive for years. I worked 12-hour shifts, cleaned blood from bed rails, helped confused old men find their call buttons, changed sheets after codes, carried trays, lifted patients twice my size, and studied nursing textbooks during lunch breaks when everyone else was too tired to talk. I kept a folded acceptance letter from Ridgewater College of Nursing in the glove box of my car. It was creased down the middle from being opened too many times. I used to look at it when I felt like my life was only hallways, scrubs, and overdue bills. That letter said I had been chosen. It said there was a door with my name on it. I did not know my family had already walked through that door and emptied the room before I arrived. The strange part is that I did not feel poor every second. I felt busy. There's a difference. Poor makes you look down. Busy makes you keep moving so fast that you do not notice how much ground you are losing. I knew my checking account was low. I knew my car made a thin rattling sound every time I turned left. I knew I had started buying the smaller laundry detergent because it cost less that day, even though it cost more later, but I still had my plan. I would keep working, save again, apply again, and become a registered nurse before 32. I told myself a late dream was still a dream. Then my grandfather asked one soft question at dinner, and my whole life started to split open around the answer. Welcome back to Pure Drama Stories, where quiet people stop apologizing and let the proof speak. This is not a story about screaming in a kitchen or throwing wine at a wedding. This is a story about a stolen future, a forged school form, and one rehearsal dinner where the flowers were paid for with the money meant to put me in nursing school. If you like slow revenge, family secrets, and the kind of truth that arrives with paperwork, stay with me. Because my sister thought she was walking toward a perfect wedding. She was actually walking straight into the record I had built. Merrow Falls, Missouri, is the kind of town where everybody knows which doctor still smokes behind the clinic and which family owns the old brick houses near the river. My grandfather, Orson Calder, was one of those men everyone respected but no one fully understood. He had built a medical supply company from a rented warehouse and 2 delivery vans. By the time I was in high school, Calder Clinical Supply had contracts all across the state. He sold it before he turned 70, but he still wore work boots, still drove the same gray truck, and still fixed his own fence when the rest of the family thought he should hire someone. He was not flashy. He did not talk about money. He talked about usefulness. A chair should hold weight. A promise should hold better. A person should do what they said they would do, especially when nobody was watching. My mother, Veda Stroud, liked the respect that came with being his daughter, but not the plainness. She loved good plates, clean curtains, and neighbors who noticed when she had her porch painted. After my father died when I was 21, she began saying, family comes first in a way that felt less like love and more like a lock clicking shut. She was beautiful in that controlled way some women are, with soft sweaters, careful hair, and a voice that could make an insult sound like concern. My younger sister, Perry, learned from her. Perry was 26, golden-haired, social, and able to cry without turning red. People called her sensitive. I called her expensive, but only in my head. Perry had always been the daughter who got rescued before she hit the ground. If she forgot to pay her phone bill, Mom said she was overwhelmed. If I worked a double and missed a family brunch, Mom said I was becoming cold. If Perry needed a dress, the family found a way. If I needed sleep, I was reminded that everyone was tired. That was the old order of our house. Perry needed. Mom managed. I endured. Grandpa loved us both, but he trusted my mother with the family details. She was his only daughter. He thought she was helping him stay close to us. I would later learn she was mostly helping herself stay between us. The year I got accepted into Ridgewater College of Nursing, I cried in my car behind the hospital. I did not call my mother first. I called Grandpa. He answered on the second ring from his warehouse office, even though he had been retired for years and had no reason to sit there except habit. When I told him, he got quiet. Then he said, "Your hands were made for that work, Brynna. Your heart, too. Don't let the cost scare you before you've even seen the hill." I laughed because I was already scared. The deposit alone made my throat tighten. Tuition looked like a mountain with windows. Grandpa asked me to send him the school information. I did. Then life got messy, or I thought it did. A few weeks later, Mom told me Grandpa wanted to help a little, but that I should not pressure him because he was getting older and had his own affairs. She said she would handle the paperwork because education gifts had tax rules, and Grandpa's attorney preferred clean records. I was exhausted and grateful. So I let her? That sentence still embarrasses me. I let her. Not because I was stupid, not because I was lazy, because I was tired, grieving, working, hoping, and raised to believe my mother's help came with strings, but not knives. I signed one release she put in front of me, something about allowing family assistance to be coordinated with the school. I did not read every line. I was standing in her kitchen in my hospital shoes, and she kept saying the soup would burn. I signed my name and went to a night shift. That signature became the only real one in a pile of fake ones. A month later, Mom told me there had been a delay. Then she said my aid package had changed. Then she said the school needed more than we expected. Then finally, she sat across from me at her breakfast table with her hands wrapped around a mug and told me I would have to defer. "Just 1 year," she said. "You're young enough. And honestly, Brynna, maybe this is good. Nursing school is intense. Some dreams are expensive for a reason." I remember that line because it landed in me like a small stone. Some dreams are expensive for a reason. I thought she meant I had not earned mine yet. I swallowed it because that is what I did with hard things. I told myself I would work more, save more, try again. 2 years passed. Perry got engaged to Kason Bellwether, whose family owned a chain of dental clinics and smiled like they had been trained by mirrors. The engagement ring was large enough that Perry kept tilting her hand under lights to watch it flash. She asked me to be a bridesmaid with the same tone a person might use to offer someone a coupon. "I know you're busy with your hospital stuff, Rietstert," she said, "but it would look strange if my only sister wasn't up there." I said yes because saying no in my family required more energy than I had, and because even then, a quiet part of me still wanted to be loved correctly by people who had never practiced. The first deep insult came at the bridal boutique in downtown Narrow Falls, where the walls were pale pink and the mirrors made everyone look softer than life. I arrived 10 minutes late because a patient had vomited down the side of my scrub pants, and I had to change before coming. I wore jeans, clean sneakers, and a sweater from the hospital gift shop. Perry stood on a platform in a robe, surrounded by Mom, 3 bridesmaids, and a saleswoman carrying champagne. She looked me up and down, then wrinkled her nose. "Please tell me you didn't come straight from the hospital," she said. "This place smells like gardenia. I don't want it smelling like disinfectant and cafeteria soup." The bridesmaids laughed softly, the kind of laugh women use when they are deciding who has power in the room. I said, "I changed." Perry smiled into the mirror. "Good. I need one day where your work life does not follow you in like a sad little cloud." I could have left. I should have left. Instead, I stood there and watched her step into the dress. The saleswoman called it an architectural gown, whatever that meant. It had hand-sewn pearls on the bodice, sleeves that fell off the shoulders, and a train that spread behind her like spilled milk. Mom pressed both hands to her mouth. Perry cried. Someone said she looked like old money. I looked at the price tag when the saleswoman turned away because numbers had become a reflex for me. The dress cost more than I had saved in 3 years for school. My stomach tightened, but I told myself it was not my business. Rich in-laws, credit cards, maybe Kaysen's family, maybe debt. There are many ways people buy things they cannot afford. I did not yet know that one of those ways was my name. Grandpa was invited to dinner the next Sunday at Mom's house to discuss wedding plans. That was how Mom framed it, but really it was a performance. Perry brought color swatches. Kaysen brought expensive wine. Mom made roast chicken and used the china she called the good set, even though no good thing had ever happened around that table without being used against someone later. I came from work again. My hair was still damp from the staff shower. Perry stared at my hands while I sat down. "Are you allowed to have nails like that in patient care?" she asked. "They're short," I said. "Exactly," she said. So practical. Almost a nurse, almost polished, almost everything. Grandpa heard that. His eyes moved to me, then to Perry. His face did not change, but his fork paused. "Brynna has more polish than most people I know," he said. "It just doesn't come in a bottle." Perry made a tiny face and changed the subject to floral installations. I loved him for that small defense. I still did not understand how much he thought he had already defended me. After dinner, while Mom poured coffee and Perry showed Kaysen a mock-up of their seating chart, Grandpa leaned close to me. "How are your clinicals treating you, little nurse?" he asked. His voice was gentle, proud, almost teasing. The words did not make sense at first. I stared at him. "My what?" He smiled, confused by my confusion. "Clinicals at Ridgewater. Your mother said the long-term care rotation was wearing you out, but you were doing well." The room did something strange around me, not physically. The chairs stayed still, the lights stayed warm, but the air changed. I looked at Mom. Her hand tightened around the coffee pot. Perry's eyes snapped to her and then away. Kaysen kept smiling because he had no idea where the danger was. I said slowly, "Grandpa, I'm not in nursing school." For 1 second, nobody spoke. Then Mom laughed too brightly. "Oh, Dad, you misunderstood. She means she's not in the main program right this second. You know how these school schedules are." She stepped between us with a coffee cup in each hand. "Perry, show him the glasshouse photos. The view is just beautiful." Perry moved fast, sliding her phone in front of Grandpa like a nurse blocking a patient from seeing a bloody tray. Grandpa looked from my face to Mom's face. He did not argue. He was old enough to know when a room had decided to lie, and young enough inside to be hurt by it. I drove home with my radio off. The acceptance letter was still in my glove box. At a red light, I opened it and looked at my own name. Brynna Calder Stroud. Accepted. Deferred, I had been told. Too expensive, I had believed. Clinicals, Grandpa had said. Long-term care rotation, Mom had told him. I sat through a green light until a truck honked behind me. The letter arrived 3 days later. It came from Ridgewater College of Nursing, thick and official, with my name spelled correctly and my apartment address printed in a font that made everything feel colder. I opened it standing over my kitchen sink because I thought it was a marketing mailer asking me to reapply. It was not. It was a tax document and account summary connected to tuition payments made on my behalf. I read the first page. Then I read it again. The words were clean. The numbers were not. Tuition and program fees had been paid in full for the year I was supposed to start. The source line read, Orson Calder Education Gift. The amount listed was $64,800. I sat down on the floor because my legs had made that choice before my mind did. $64,800. Paid for me. Paid when I was told there was a delay. Paid when I was told the school had become too expensive. Paid when I picked up extra shifts and told myself there was dignity in waiting. I called the number on the letter with my hands so cold I had to press the phone between both palms. After 2 transfers and a hold song that sounded like it was recorded underwater, I reached a woman named Quilla Renshaw in the bursar's office. Her voice was careful before I even finished explaining. "Ms. Stroud," she said, "our records show your tuition was paid, your enrollment was deferred, and later a refund was issued to the financial account on file." I gripped the edge of my table. I never deferred. I never got a refund. I never started the program. There was a pause. I heard keys clicking. Then she said, "You need to come in with photo identification. I cannot discuss more over the phone." That night, I went to my mother's house. I did not call first. She opened the door in soft gray lounge clothes, holding a mug of tea like she had been waiting to look innocent. "Brynna," she said, "this is a surprise." I stepped inside. The house smelled like lemon polish and the cinnamon candles she burned when she wanted visitors to think we had been a warm family. "Did Grandpa pay for my nursing school?" I asked. No greeting, no warm-up, just the question. Her expression barely moved, but something behind her eyes locked. "You have been working too many nights," she said. "You get strange when you don't sleep." I held up the Ridgewater letter. "That is not an answer." She glanced at the envelope but did not touch it. "It is the only answer you deserve when you walk into my house accusing people." I waited. I had learned in hospital rooms that silence could make people tell on themselves. Mom set her mug down with care. "Your sister is getting married. Do not bring your bitterness into this family right now." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because my body did not know what else to do with the pain. "Bitterness?" I said. "Grandpa asked me about clinicals. The college says tuition was paid and refunded. I need to know what happened." Her voice softened. That was when she was most dangerous. "I know it is hard watching Perry move forward when you feel stuck, but you cannot turn every happy thing into proof that someone wronged you." I stared at her. There it was. She had not denied the money. She had changed the subject to my character. I left before she could make me defend myself instead of my question. If you have ever asked a direct question and been handed a story about your attitude, you know the kind of anger that does not explode. It sharpens. I went home and made a folder, not a real folder yet, just a file on my laptop with screenshots, dates, notes, and one title, Ridgewater. I wrote down Grandpa's clinicals question. I wrote down Mom's exact words. I scanned the college letter. I pulled my old emails from the year I was accepted. I found the message where I had sent Mom my student ID number because she said Grandpa's attorney needed it. I found the release I had signed. 1 page, my real signature. Broad, uneven, slightly tilted left because I always wrote too fast. I stared at it for a long time, memorizing my own name like I might need to prove it belonged to me. 2 mornings later, I walked into Ridgewater College of Nursing wearing jeans, a blue sweater, and the cleanest shoes I owned. The building was all glass and pale brick, with students moving through the lobby in navy scrubs. I watched them for a second too long. One girl had a stethoscope around her neck. Another carried a stack of flashcards. I felt something inside me fold in half. That should have been me. Not in some dramatic movie way, in a very ordinary way. Tired, nervous, drinking bad coffee, complaining about exams, learning how to become the thing I had been reaching towards since I was 16. Instead, I was standing at the front desk asking to speak to the bursar like a stranger visiting a life that used to be mine. Quilla Renshaw was in her 50s with silver hair cut blunt at her chin and reading glasses on a chain. She looked like a woman who had spent years telling parents that deadlines were real. Her office had a small plant, 3 locked filing cabinets, and a framed sign that said, "Financial records are student records." She checked my ID twice. Then she turned her monitor slightly. Not enough for me to see everything, but enough to show she was not hiding the fact that there was something to see. "I am going to explain this carefully," she said. "Your tuition was paid by education gift transfer from Orson Calder. The payment covered tuition, lab fees, simulation fees, uniforms, and your first-year clinical package. My throat tightened at the word uniforms. Then what happened? I asked. Quilla clicked. A deferment request was submitted through the student portal. It stated you were unable to begin due to health and financial hardship. After that, a refund request was submitted for eligible funds. I did not submit that, I said. My voice sounded too calm. She looked at me over her glasses. The email address on file was changed 2 weeks before the deferment. She read it out. It was almost my name, but not quite. Brynna.c.stroud.school at a provider I had never used. Your mailing address was changed to your mother's address. Your emergency contact was changed to Veda Stroud, and the refund account was verified through a signed authorization form. She printed 1 page and slid it across the desk. This is the form I'm allowed to release to you today because it concerns your own student record. I looked down. My name sat at the bottom. Brynna Calder Stroud. Only it was not my signature. It was neat, round, pretty, and wrong. There are moments when your mind refuses to feel because feeling would slow down the part of you that needs to survive. I did not cry in Quilla's office. I studied the page. The fake signature curved high on the B. Mine never did. The last name had a little loop in the S like a ribbon. Perry made that same loop. I had seen it on birthday cards, gift tags, and once on a note she left me asking to borrow my black boots and never return them. Quilla did not say what she saw on my face. She only said, "Ms. Stroud, this is no longer a simple tuition issue. If you did not authorize these changes, someone used your identity inside an education account. You may need legal advice." I folded the copy slowly. "Can I get the refund account information?" She shook her head. "Not without a formal request, subpoena, or proper authorization. But I can preserve the records. I can also document your dispute." Preserve. Document. Dispute. Cold words. Useful words. For the first time since Grandpa's question, I felt the ground stop moving. I called out sick that night, which I had done only twice in 8 years. Then I sat at my kitchen table and built the real folder. I printed the tuition summary, the fake deferment form, the email change notice Quilla gave me, my real acceptance letter, my real signature from the release. I placed them side by side. Real Brynna, fake Brynna, accepted Brynna, deferred Brynna, the woman I was and the woman someone invented to steal from me. At midnight, my friend Tolly Grant knocked on my door with soup in a plastic container and a face full of worry. Tolly was a respiratory therapist at the hospital. She had seen me handle angry families, seizure patients, and a drunk man who tried to bite me. She had never seen me call out. I led her in and pointed to the table. She read silently for almost 10 minutes. Then she looked at me and said, "Who had your student login?" "My mother," I said. "Maybe Perry. I don't know." Tolly tapped the fake signature. "This doesn't look like you." "No. It looks like someone who wanted it to look pretty." That was exactly it. My signature was not pretty. It was fast and functional. The fake one had performed innocence. Tolly sat back. "What are you going to do?" I looked at the papers. "Not what they expect." She waited. "I'm not going to yell." Tolly nodded slowly. "Good. Yelling gives people smoke. Paper gives people fire." The wedding machine kept moving while my life stood still. Perry's texts arrived in the bridal party thread like nothing was wrong. Final fitting Friday. Hair trial Tuesday. Welcome box assembly next week. Wear nude heels. Do not bring drama. That last one was not written, but it lived under every message. I watched her post venue videos from the glass house at Cormac Ridge, a hilltop building made of windows and white beams, overlooking brown winter fields and a strip of river shining like metal. She filmed the ceremony room with her ring hand visible in every frame. "Can't believe we get to start forever here," she wrote. I stared at the word "we." I wondered how many people had been invited into the future bought with mine. The invoice clue came by accident, or maybe it came because arrogant people get sloppy when they believe quiet people will stay quiet. The wedding planner, Nola Wexford, sent a vendor balance email to the bridal party by mistake. Most of the bridesmaids responded with heart emojis before she recalled it, but I had already opened the attachment. It was a payment schedule for Perry and Kaysen's wedding: venue deposit, floral structure, dress balance, photographer, custom welcome boxes, late-night espresso cart. My eyes moved down the page because numbers always tell the part people leave out. One payment reference stopped me cold: Calder Education Distribution. It was attached to a $22,000 payment made 3 days after the Ridgewater refund date Quilla had shown me. Another payment, 1 week later, covered the dress balance. Another went to floral design. The dates matched too closely to be coincidence. I took screenshots. I downloaded the PDF. I forwarded the email to myself twice. Then I sat back and let myself understand what kind of ugly I was looking at. My tuition had not drifted into some unknown family emergency. It had been scheduled, broken apart, applied to beauty. At Mom's house the next weekend, Perry had us assemble welcome boxes for wedding guests: small jars of local honey, tiny candles, printed maps, monogrammed matches, and ribbon the color of champagne. I tied bows while Perry complained that the custom tissue paper was not ivory enough. Mom watched me from across the table. She knew I knew something. I could feel it, but she did not know how much. That gave me a little room to breathe. Perry held up one of the candles and said, "These are handmade. Nola says guests remember details." I looked at the invoice in my mind. $800 for candles, more than my car insurance for 6 months. "Pretty?" I said. Perry smiled. "Try not to sound like you're judging. Not everything has to be practical, Brynna." Mom added, "Your sister gets one wedding. You can go back to school anytime." The room became very still inside me. You can go back to school anytime. She said it so easily, like time was something she could pull from a drawer and hand me when Perry was done using it. I tied the ribbon around the box and pulled it tight. "Can I?" I asked. Mom blinked. "Of course." "Good to know," I said. Perry rolled her eyes. "Please don't make this weird." I almost said, "You already did." Instead, I smiled. Not a warm smile, a hospital smile, the kind you give before you call security. That night, I called the number on Grandpa's old warehouse office. It rang 8 times and went to voicemail. I called his house. Mom answered. "Dad is resting," she said. "Why are you calling him this late?" It was 7:15. "I need to ask him something." "Ask me." "No." Silence. Then the soft voice. "Brynna, do not upset him before the wedding. He is very emotional lately." There it was. The same wall. My mother had built herself into the doorway between me and the one person who could open the records. I hung up before she could ask what I had found. I did not use the mailbox. Mom checked his mail when she helped with his bills. I did not text. His phone synced to the tablet she had bought him. I chose the one place she would not think to search. Grandpa kept an old green tackle box in the back office of his warehouse. It had belonged to my father. When I was little, Grandpa hid peppermint candies in it for me during summer inventory days. Even after he sold the company, he kept the office and visited it every Thursday because he said some buildings deserved not to be abandoned all at once. I drove there before my shift, used the spare key under the rusted planter, and put a note inside the tackle box. "Grandpa, I need 1 hour with you without Mom and Perry. Please trust me before you trust the story they gave you. It is about Ridgewater. It is about my name. I love you. Brynna." Then I went to work and moved through 12 hours like my body was a machine someone else had turned on. I emptied catheter bags. I helped a nurse roll a patient with bed sores. I held a confused woman's hand while she called me by her dead daughter's name. I checked my phone so often Tolly finally took it and put it in her pocket for an hour. "You will hear it buzz," she said. "You will not drill a hole through it with your eyes." At 6:40 the next morning, just as I walked to my car under a pink Missouri sunrise, an unknown number called. I answered with my heart in my throat. Grandpa said, "Brynna girl, I'm in my office. Your note is in my hand. Come now, if you can." He was standing by the warehouse window when I arrived, wearing his old brown jacket and holding the note like it weighed more than paper. The warehouse smelled of dust, cardboard, and cold concrete. Half the shelves were empty now, but I could still picture boxes of gloves, IV poles, bed pads, and blood pressure cuffs stacked to the ceiling. This place had sent supplies to hospitals all over Missouri. Grandpa had built his life making sure sick people had what they needed. That made what I had to show him feel even crueler. I laid the documents on his desk one by one. The tuition summary, the fake deferment form, the changed email, the refund record, the wedding invoice. He read slowly. At first, his face held confusion, then pain, then something harder. "I paid this," he said, tapping the tuition line, "directly, through Merit. Your mother said you wanted it handled quietly because you were proud." He looked up. I thought I understood. "You always had that stiff spine." I swallowed. "I did not know you paid. I thought I lost the seat." He closed his eyes for a second. "Veda told me you were doing clinicals." "She told you a lot," I said. I took out the last page. A copy Quilla had printed from my student communication file. It was a letter sent to Grandpa through Mom, supposedly from me. "Grandpa, I wore my first set of clinical scrubs today. I thought of you. Thank you for believing I could do this." The signature at the bottom was the same pretty fake version of my name. Grandpa sat down. Not slowly because he was old, suddenly because something inside him had dropped. "I carried that sentence around for months," he said. "I told Earl at the credit union. I told him my granddaughter had her first clinical day." He touched the fake letter with one finger. "You didn't write this." "No." "You never wore the scrubs." "No." His mouth tightened. "I thought I was sending you forward." My voice broke for the first time. "You were?" They turned me around before I could take the first step. For a moment, he looked like he might pick up the desk phone and call my mother right there. His hand moved toward it. I put my palm on the receiver. "Not here," I said. He stared at me. "Brynna, this is my daughter." "I know." "And my granddaughter." "I know. They used your name." "Yes." His eyes flashed. "Then why not drag it into the light right now?" I took a breath. "Because if you confront Mom in her kitchen, she will cry. She will talk about Dad. She will talk about the house. She will say Perry was under pressure. She will make you feel cruel for asking questions. And by tomorrow morning, half the family will hear that I attacked her over a school misunderstanding." He looked away because he knew that rhythm. We all did. Mom could turn guilt into weather. Everyone else just learned to dress for it. "Then where?" he asked. I slid the wedding invoice toward him. "The rehearsal dinner is at the Glass House. Perry asked me to give a small toast. She thinks it will make her look generous to include me." Grandpa looked at the payment reference again. Calder Education Distribution. His jaw tightened. "The room they built with your future," he said. I nodded. "That room." He was quiet for a long time. Dust floated in the warehouse light between us. Finally, he said, "Merritt needs to see this." Merritt Hallowell was Grandpa's attorney, but she looked nothing like the dramatic lawyers on television. She was in her 60s, short, elegant, and plain-spoken, with a voice that could make a room sit up straighter without raising itself. We met her the next day in a conference room above the old credit union. She read every page before speaking. Then she asked me for my real signature 6 times on a yellow legal pad. She compared them to the deferment form. Her face stayed neutral, which frightened me more than anger would have. "I am not a handwriting expert," she said, "but these are plainly inconsistent. I will bring in one." She explained what the words might be: identity misuse, forged authorization, theft by deception, possible fraud tied to education funds. She did not promise anything. Good professionals rarely do. She only said, "The strongest cases are built before anyone knows you are building them." Grandpa authorized Ridgewater to release fuller records to Merritt. Quilla preserved the portal logs. The changed email traced to a recovery phone number ending in digits I recognized from Perry's old tablet. The refund account was not in Perry's name alone. It belonged to a wedding expense account opened by Perry and my mother, with Mom listed as co-signer for vendor management. That phrase made me laugh once, sharply. Vendor management. A clean name for dirty money. The document examiner, Sutter Mave, reviewed the school forms and the fake letters. Her written opinion was careful but clear. The same writer likely signed the deferment and authored the notes attributed to me. The style matched known samples from Perry's bridal contracts, thank you cards, and gift lists. That was when my anger changed. Before, it had been hot and personal. My sisters stole from me. My mother lied, but the file made it colder. They had not panicked once and made a terrible choice. They had built a second Brynna, a fake student with a fake email, fake hardship, fake gratitude, fake clinical days, and fake requests for more funds. They did not just steal tuition. They operated my identity like a small business. If this is hitting somewhere tender, stay with me. Because there is a special kind of pain in learning that people did not simply fail to help you. They used your strength as part of the plan. They counted on you working too much to check. They counted on you being too polite to ask. They counted on the fact that when life disappointed you, you would blame yourself first. 3 weeks before the wedding, Perry's behavior became almost generous, which told me she was nervous. She invited me to lunch with the bridesmaids and ordered salad for everyone before I arrived. I know you don't care about this stuff, she said, but try to be present. It means a lot to Mom. I watched her smile at me across the table. She had my future in her flower budget and still wanted my emotional cooperation. One bridesmaid asked if I was in nursing school because Perry had apparently told people I was taking a break. Perry answered before I could. Brynna is always almost doing something, she said lightly. Almost nursing school, almost dating, almost moving out of that tiny apartment. She likes having a goal more than reaching it. The table laughed. Not cruelly, exactly. People laugh at the tone they are given. I put my fork down. Perry's eyes met mine. She was daring me to ruin lunch. I smiled. You're right, I said. I have been almost doing something for a long time. That night, Tolly came over again, and I told her about the lunch. She wanted to drive to Perry's house and teach manners with a tire iron, which was why I loved her and why she was not in charge of strategy. I showed her the proof packet Merritt had helped me organize. Not everything, just enough. 1 tuition receipt, 1 fake deferment form, 1 refund record, 1 wedding invoice, 1 fake letter about clinical scrubs. Tolly read it, then sat very still. Are you sure you want to do it at the rehearsal? She asked. No, I said. But I am sure I do not want them telling the story first. Tolly nodded. Then make it clean. No speeches longer than a breath. Let the documents embarrass them. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for the night before the wedding at the Glass House. Perry and Kaysen had rented the venue for the whole weekend because Perry said transitions ruin the mood. The rehearsal itself would be in the ceremony room, then dinner in the glass hall overlooking the ridge. Kayson's family would be there. Our relatives, Grandpa's old friends, the bridal party, vendors moving through with clipboards and flowers. It was not the full wedding crowd, but it was enough, more than enough. Perry herself gave me the microphone slot. Just a little family toast, she said over the phone. Nothing heavy. Maybe say how proud you are of me. I looked at the proof packet on my table. I can do that, I said. I can talk about what your wedding means. The week before the rehearsal, Mom came to my apartment without warning. That alone told me she was afraid. She never visited my apartment unless she wanted to remind herself it was smaller than her house. She stood in my doorway holding a garment bag. Your bridesmaid dress, she said. Perry had alterations done. Try not to spill coffee on it. I took the bag. She looked past me at my kitchen table, but I had already moved the folder. You've been quiet, she said. I'm tired. You are always tired. Then you should be used to it. Her face tightened. She stepped inside without asking. I need you to understand something. Your sister has waited her whole life for a day like this. I hung the dress over a chair. And I waited for school. Do not compare a wedding to your delayed plans. Delayed by who? Her eyes sharpened. Careful. That word. Careful. It was the word people used when they wanted your fear to do their work. I looked at my mother. Really looked at her. She seemed older than she had at dinner, more lines around her mouth, a small tremble in her left hand. I wondered how much of her life had become covering one lie with another. For 1 second, compassion rose in me like an old habit. Then she said, Perry needed one beautiful day, Brynna. You have always been able to survive without one. There it was. Not a confession, something worse. A worldview. My pain was acceptable because I had survived it before. I said, I needed a future. She looked away. You can still have one. Not the one you spent. She left after that. She did not slam the door. My mother never slammed anything. She preferred quiet damage. Grandpa and I met with Merritt one final time the morning of the rehearsal. He looked tired but steady. He had brought an old leather folder from his company days. Inside were copies of the original education gift instructions. He had written a note on top in his careful block letters. For Brynna's nursing program only. Not general family support, not wedding use, not discretionary. I touched the words lightly. They mattered. Intent matters. Paper remembers intent when people pretend not to. Merritt told us the formal complaint would be filed after the rehearsal, not because we were waiting for drama, but because Grandpa wanted to hear their response in front of witnesses before any private rewriting began. Do not threaten, Merritt said. Do not accuse beyond the documents. Do not speculate. Ask clear questions. If they answer badly, that is their choice. Grandpa said, My daughter has always answered badly when the truth cornered her. Merritt looked at him with sympathy, but did not soften the instruction. Then let her. I dressed that evening in the dusty blue bridesmaid dress Perry had chosen. It was too tight in the ribs and too thin for the cold wind on Cormac Ridge. I pinned my hair back myself. I wore small silver earrings my father had given me when I graduated high school. In the mirror, I did not look dramatic. I looked tired, pale, and calm. That was enough. I put the proof packet in a flat envelope and slid it into my coat. Then I drove up the ridge behind a line of cars carrying people who believed they were going to celebrate love. The glass house was beautiful. I hated that it was beautiful. The building glowed against the dark hill, all windows and warm light with white roses climbing metal frames near the entrance. Inside, candles floated in glass bowls. The floor shone. A long table ran through the dinner hall with ivory linens, gold flatware, and place cards written in Perry's looping hand. That loop again. I saw it on every name and felt the file in my coat like a pulse. The room smelled like roses, butter, perfume, and money. My money. My grandfather's love. My delayed life dressed up as elegance. Perry was everywhere at once, glowing in a white rehearsal dress with feathers at the cuffs. Kason stood beside her, handsome and nervous, accepting compliments like a man who had not yet understood that marriage was not a photo opportunity. Mom wore emerald green and moved through the room like a queen checking her territory. When she saw me, her eyes dropped to my coat. You won't need that inside, she said. I'm cold. Don't be difficult tonight. I'm standing still. Perry drifted over, kissed the air near my cheek, and whispered, Remember? Short toast. No hospital stories, no sad voice. Tonight is about people who actually showed up for their lives. I looked at her beautiful face, the pearl earrings, the perfect makeup, the soft mouth that had shaped my name on documents I never signed. I know what tonight is about, I said. Dinner began with laughter. That was the hardest part. People were happy. Kason's mother told a story about him losing a tooth in 2nd grade. Perry's bridesmaids dabbed their eyes at a slideshow of the couple, hiking, kissing, laughing, holding coffee, looking like a catalog version of devotion. Grandpa sat near the middle of the table, not at the head, because Perry had arranged the seating to make Kason's family feel central. Mom sat beside him like a guard. Merritt sat 2 seats away from Grandpa. introduced simply as an old family advisor. Tolly was not invited, of course, but she texted me one line before dinner, light switch. I put my phone face down. The slideshow shifted to wedding preparation photos. The boutique, the dress, the venue, the floral mock-up. A caption appeared on the screen. A dream, paid in love. I felt Grandpa see it. He did not move, but his hand closed around his water glass. Paid in love, yes, but not the way they meant. After the main course, Perry stood and tapped her glass. Before dessert, I asked my sister to say a few words, she said, smiling at the room. Brynna and I are very different, but family is family. She looked at me, and I know she is happy for me in her own way. That little blade slid in so smoothly, most people missed it. Mom gave me the warning look. Keep it sweet. Keep it small. Keep paying the price of belonging. I stood. My legs did not shake. That surprised me. I took the microphone from Perry's hand. Her fingers squeezed it for half a second before letting go. The room turned toward me, warm and curious. I saw Kayson's father smiling politely. I saw the bridesmaids ready to be moved. I saw Mom's mouth tight at the corners. I saw Grandpa watching me with a sadness so deep it almost broke my focus. I took the envelope from my coat and set it on the table in front of me. I was asked to talk about what Perry's wedding means, I began. My voice sounded clear through the speakers. For a long time, I thought it meant my sister had found the life she wanted. A beautiful room, a beautiful dress, a beautiful beginning. Perry smiled cautiously. Then I learned something else. I learned that my grandfather paid for my nursing school, and I never went because someone canceled my enrollment, forged my name, and moved the refund into this wedding. The room did not gasp all at once. It went silent in layers. First the table nearest me, then the back of the room, then the vendors along the wall who stopped pretending not to listen. Perry's smile fell off her face. Mom stood halfway. Brynna, she said, voice sharp. Sit down. I looked at her. No. It was the smallest word I had ever said to her. It felt like putting down a heavy box I had carried for years. I pulled out the first page and turned toward the screen. The venue had a small projector for speeches and videos. Perry had used it for her love story. I used it for the tuition receipt, Grandpa's gift. Ridgewater College of Nursing, $64,800. This is the payment my grandfather made for my nursing program, I said. I did not know it had been paid. I put up the second page. The deferment form. This is the form used to cancel my start. That is not my signature. I put up the third page, the refund authorization. This sent the money to an account I did not own. Then the fourth, NOLA's invoice, Calder Education Distribution. And this is part of the wedding payment record. Kayson stood slowly. Perry? He said. Not loud, not angry yet, just confused in a way that was about to become pain. Perry looked at him, then at Mom. That look told half the room more than any confession could. Mom moved toward me. This is private family business, she said. I held the microphone steady. Private is when you make a mistake and correct it. Public is when you spend my future in front of everyone and ask me to toast it. Someone near the back whispered, "Oh my God." Perry recovered enough to attack. She stepped forward, face flushed under perfect makeup. "You are unbelievable, Findem," she said. "You could not let me have one night." I looked at her. "You had my year." Her mouth opened. "You were never going to finish nursing school anyway. You can barely handle your little hospital job without acting like a martyr." The sentence rang through the speakers because she had stepped close enough for the microphone to catch it. Kayson flinched. A bridesmaid looked down at her plate. Mom closed her eyes. Not from shame, I think, but because Perry had said the ugly part too clearly. I asked the question I had practiced until it became smooth. If I was going to waste the money, why did you need my name to take it? Perry froze. There are questions that do not need volume because they remove every exit. That was one of them. She looked at the screen. Her handwriting was still on the place cards. Her looped letters sat in front of every guest like small witnesses. Grandpa stood then. The room shifted again. Orson Calder did not raise his voice. He did not need to. "I gave that money for Brynna's nursing school," he said. "Not for flowers, not for silk, not for a party on a hill." His eyes moved to my mother. "Veda, you told me she was in clinicals. You gave me letters in her name." Mom's face crumpled in the way I had feared and expected. "Daddy, I was trying to keep things together." Grandpa's face hardened. "By taking one granddaughter's future to decorate the other one's wedding?" She reached for him. He stepped back. That step did more than any shout could have done. My mother looked as if he had slapped her. Merritt rose from her chair. She buttoned her jacket, calm as a judge. "I advise everyone involved to choose their next words carefully," she said. The room turned to her. "The documents shown tonight are copies. Originals and certified records are already in Council's possession. Forged education forms, unauthorized refund directions, and letters written in another person's name to obtain funds can carry serious civil and criminal consequences. This is no longer a misunderstanding, and it should not be discussed casually in this room." Her voice was mild. Her words landed like locked doors. Kason looked at Perry. "Did you know?" he asked. Perry began to cry then, but not like a person sorry for harm, like a person angry that the stage had changed without her permission. "Mom said Brynna deferred. Mom said the money would just sit there. Mom said Grandpa wanted to help the family." "I did not ask if your mother said it," Kason replied. His voice cracked. "I asked if you knew." Perry wiped under one eye carefully, trying not to smear mascara. "It was already done," she said. "The deposits were paid. What was I supposed to do, cancel everything?" The room seemed to lean away from her. I did not speak for a moment. I wanted everyone to hear what she had just chosen. Not denial, not shock, convenience. Mom stepped in then, because control was her oldest habit. "I did what mothers do," she said, turning to Grandpa, then to Kason's parents, then to me. "I protected one daughter because the other was strong enough to survive. Brynna has always survived. Perry needed this. She needed one beautiful day." That old sentence tried to enter me again, the one that said my strength made me available for use. This time, it found no home. "You did not protect Perry," I said. "You taught her my life was something she could spend." Mom's lips parted. Perry made a wounded sound. I kept going, not louder, just clearer. "I was not jealous of this wedding. I was grieving the life you bought it with. You said I could go back to school any time. I couldn't. You had already cashed the chance." Grandpa put one hand on the back of his chair. "Brynna," he said softly, "what do you want tonight?" That question nearly undid me because no one in my family had asked me that in years without already deciding the answer. I looked at the room, at the flowers, at Perry, at my mother, at the documents glowing on the screen. "I do not want an apology performed in front of guests," I said. "I want the money returned. I want Ridgewater corrected. I want the report filed, and I want no one in this family to use my name again without my consent." Mom whispered, "You would destroy your sister over money?" I looked at her then. Really looked. "No. You nearly destroyed me over money. I am naming it before you call it love." The silence after that felt clean. The rehearsal dinner ended without dessert. People left in small, awkward groups, carrying coats and questions. Kason's parents took him outside. Perry followed, crying hard now, one hand holding up the hem of her white dress. Mom sat at the table with her face in her hands until Grandpa asked Merritt to drive her home. He did not touch her shoulder. That restraint broke my heart more than anger would have. Nola Wexford, the planner, stood near the kitchen entrance with a clipboard pressed to her chest, looking like a woman realizing her invoice had become evidence. I walked outside into the cold ridge air. The glass house glowed behind me, still beautiful, still paid for, but no longer innocent. Grandpa found me by the stone wall overlooking the fields. For a while, neither of us spoke. The river below caught moonlight in broken pieces. Finally, he said, "I thought I was helping my granddaughter stand up. I did not know I was paying for another one to step over her." I leaned my elbows on the cold stone. "You did help me stand up," I said. "Just not when you thought." His eyes shone. "I should have called you directly. I should have checked." "No," he said, sharper than I expected. "Do not take their work and call it your failure." I turned away because I was afraid I would cry, and if I started, I might not stop before morning. The wedding did not happen the next day. Perry told people it was postponed due to a family emergency, which was the first honest thing she had said in months, even if not in the way she meant it. Kaysen moved into his brother's guest room. His parents requested copies of any records tied to wedding payments they had reimbursed. Nola cooperated quickly. Vendors, it turned out, keep better records than families. Every deposit, every reference line, every transfer date became part of the trail. The dress boutique had a balance receipt paid from the wedding account 3 days after the Ridgewater refund. The florist had 2 payments with the same memo. The welcome boxes, candles, espresso cart, photographer, and glass venue all sat in a neat row of dates that began with my deferred enrollment. I thought the rehearsal reveal was the bottom. It was not. 2 nights later, Merritt called while I was folding laundry. "Brynna," she said, "there is one more document you need to see." I sat down before she told me to. She had received an additional correspondence file from Grandpa's side, including letters Mom had delivered to him over the last year. One of them, dated 3 weeks before the rehearsal, was written in my name and asked Grandpa to consider advancing $40,000 for an accelerated board preparation program, relocation support, and specialized clinical equipment. I had never heard of such a program. I had not been enrolled anywhere. Merritt's voice was controlled, but I could hear the disgust under it. Given the wedding timeline and the honeymoon invoices we have seen, it appears they were preparing to request additional funds. I closed my eyes. For what? A house down payment may be involved, possibly travel. We are still tracing. After I hung up, I sat in my apartment and looked at the wall for a long time. It is one thing to learn people stole from you. It is another to learn they were not finished. If Grandpa had not asked about clinicals, if the college letter had not come, if Nola had not sent the invoice, they might have kept going. Fake Brynna would have needed board prep. Fake Brynna would have needed relocation. Fake Brynna would have kept thanking him in pretty handwriting, while real Brynna cleaned hospital rooms and blamed herself for being behind. That final letter changed the tone of everything. A mistake stops when discovered. A scheme grows until someone cuts it open. Grandpa said that to me the next morning, standing in the warehouse office with the new letter in his hand. He looked older than he had a month before. Betrayal ages people in places sleep cannot reach. "I am filing everything," he said. "Not because I hate my daughter, because if I hide this, I become part of it." I nodded. I had nothing wise to add. Sometimes truth is already complete. The legal process was not fast, and it was not pretty. People who expect revenge to feel like fireworks have never sat through document review. It is slow, it is expensive. It has forms with small boxes and words that make your stomach hurt. Ridgewater corrected my record after Quilla submitted the identity dispute, and Merritt provided supporting documents. The refund issue moved into a formal claim. The account tied to the wedding payments was frozen for review. Perry and Mom hired separate attorneys after Kaysen's family made it clear they were not going to treat stolen education funds as a bridal misunderstanding. Sutter Maeve's report became important. So did the portal logs. So did the fake email. So did every pretty letter I never wrote. Mom tried once to call me directly. I did not answer. She left a voicemail. I listened to it with Tolly sitting beside me on my couch. Mom cried through most of it. She said she had been scared. She said Perry had been fragile. She said the house had needed repairs. She said Grandpa had so much. She said, I had always been independent. She said she was sorry I felt hurt. Tolly paused the message there and looked at me. "Sorry you felt hurt is not an apology. It is a receipt for emotional laziness." I almost smiled. Then I deleted the voicemail after saving a copy for Merritt, because even grief needs boundaries when lawyers are involved. Perry sent a text 2 weeks later. It was long, full of broken sentences and blame. She said I had humiliated her. She said Kaysen would barely speak to her. She said I had turned Grandpa against them. She said I did not understand what it felt like to have one dream and watch someone ruin it. I read that line 3 times. One dream. I thought of the Ridgewater hallway, the Navy scrubs, the girl with flashcards. I thought of years of night shifts. I thought of the fake letter about clinicals. I typed one reply and nothing else. I know exactly what that feels like. Then I blocked her number. Grandpa changed everything, not just the money, everything. He removed Mom from every family financial access point. He moved his documents to Merritt's office. He set up a direct education trust with Ridgewater, one that required my signature, my student email, and my direct confirmation for any change. No middle person, he said. Not ever again. Ridgewater allowed me to enter the next nursing cohort after reviewing the fraud report. I cried when Killa called me. Quietly. Embarrassingly. She let me cry without filling the silence. Then she said, "You will need new immunization records before orientation." It was such an ordinary sentence that I laughed through the tears. Immunization records. After all of that, the door back into my life opened with paperwork and a vaccine form. The first day I walked into Ridgewater as an actual student, I wore plain navy scrubs and shoes that did not pinch. Grandpa drove me, even though I told him I could drive myself. He parked outside the building and handed me a small box. Inside was a stethoscope, not the most expensive one, not a showpiece, a good one, solid, useful. On the metal rim, he had engraved my initials, BCS, my real initials, my real name. I held it and could not speak. Grandpa cleared his throat. "Your father would have liked this better than a wedding centerpiece," he said. I laughed and cried at the same time, which is not graceful but is sometimes honest. I did not quit the hospital. I cut my hours. That felt like luxury. Not a vacation, not a new car, just the right to sleep enough before class. I kept one weekend shift because I still loved patient care and because I wanted to remember where I started without being trapped there. Tolly told everyone in respiratory that I was officially dangerous with a textbook now. The nurses on my floor gave me highlighters, compression socks, and more advice than any one person could use. One of them hugged me and said, "You were always one of us. Now the school gets to catch up." That sentence healed something small and deep. Grandpa also created the Calder-Stroud-Bridge Scholarship for hospital techs who wanted to become nurses. He named it partly for me, partly for my father, and partly, he said, because bridges matter when people keep telling you to swim harder. The first recipient was a single father from the night cleaning crew who had been taking anatomy classes online. At the small announcement event, Grandpa did not mention Mom or Perry. He did not mention the wedding. He simply said, "Money should open doors, not disguise theft." People clapped. I looked down at my hands because sometimes justice feels too bright to stare at directly. As for my mother and sister, everything between us now runs through attorneys, repayment schedules, and silence. A restitution agreement was reached months later, tied to the frozen wedding funds, Perry's remaining vendor refunds, and a lien against Mom's house. The criminal complaint did not disappear just because they cried. Forged signatures, false school records, and identity-based requests for additional funds are not family drama once they enter a file. Kaysen never married Perry. I heard that from someone else, not because I asked. He returned what gifts he could and left town for a while. Perry sold the dress at a loss. I did not feel happy when I heard that. I only felt the strange, dull quiet that comes when something expensive finally becomes evidence instead of decoration. People sometimes ask, usually in careful voices, whether I miss them. The honest answer is complicated. I miss who I thought they might become if I loved them long enough. I miss the mother I kept trying to earn. I miss the sister I protected in childhood before she learned protection could be turned into entitlement. But I do not miss being used. I do not miss shrinking my questions to keep dinner peaceful. I do not miss hearing family comes first from people who always meant I should come last. The last time I saw Mom in person was at Merritt's office during a restitution meeting. She looked smaller, not because she had lost power, but because she could no longer spend mine. After the lawyers finished, she turned to me in the hallway. For a second, I saw the woman who made soup when I had the flu at 9, who braided my hair badly before school pictures, who once stayed up all night when I had a fever. Then she said, "I hope nursing school was worth all this." And whatever softness had started to rise in me went still. "It was worth more than this," I said. That was the problem. I walked away before she could answer. I keep one copy of the fake deferment form in a drawer with my old acceptance letter, not on the wall, not on the fridge. I do not need to look at it every day. But I keep it because memory gets gentle when time passes, and I do not want to confuse peace with permission. Sometimes, after class, when I am tired and my brain is full of medication calculations and care plans, I open the drawer and look at the 2 Brynnas. The real one accepted into school. The fake one used to cancel her. Then I close the drawer and go back to studying. Protecting what is yours does not make you greedy. Asking who signed your name does not make you dramatic. Refusing to let people spend your future and call it love does not make you cruel. For years, I thought being strong meant absorbing the loss without making anyone uncomfortable. I know better now. Strength is not silence. Sometimes strength is standing in a glass room full of flowers, turning on a projector and letting the people who stole your future read their own paperwork. That is my story. My grandfather paid for my nursing school. My sister used it for her wedding. My mother called it family. The documents called it something else. And when the room finally saw the difference, I stopped being the daughter who survived everything quietly and became the woman no one could sign over again. If this story reminded you of a question you have been too scared to ask, maybe this is your sign. Ask it. Check the paper. Read the form before you trust the smile, and never let someone call your future family property. Commentary, discussion, explanation, and lessons. Before we talk about Brynna's revenge, we need to talk about the real crime in this story. Because the ugliest part was not the wedding dress, it was not the flowers, it was not even the money. The real crime was that her own family made her believe she had failed while they were secretly spending the future her grandfather had already paid for. That is the part that should bother us the most. Brynna was not sitting around waiting for someone to save her. She was working. She was serving patients. She was carrying the kind of exhaustion that most people only understand after they have lived inside a hospital hallway at 3 a.m. She was not asking for a luxury life. She was asking for a chance to become a nurse. That matters. Her dream was not shallow. It was disciplined. It had sacrifice behind it. So when her mother and sister took that nursing school money and turned it into a wedding, they did not just steal dollars. They stole years, confidence, direction, and dignity. And this is why the story hits hard. Because Brynna spent so much time blaming life. She thought the school was too expensive. She thought she had missed her chance. She thought she simply needed to work more, save more, and wait longer. But the truth was much darker. Her door had been opened, paid for, and prepared. Her own family quietly closed it and told her the lock was her fault. That is a brutal kind of betrayal. Let's break down what really happened. Grandpa Orson believed in Brynna. He saw her work ethic. He saw her heart. He knew she belonged in nursing school, so he paid for it. But instead of letting that money reach its purpose, Veda and Perry created a false version of Brynna. Fake email, fake deferment, fake refund form, fake signature, fake letters, fake gratitude, fake clinical updates. They did not only take money, they built a fake identity around her name and used that identity to keep Grandpa calm. That is not a small family mistake. That is a system. A mistake is one bad decision. A system has steps. A system has timing. A system has paperwork. A system has a cover story. In this story, the cover story was very smart and very cruel. Brynna was told that nursing school had become too expensive. Grandpa was told Brynna was already in school. Both of them were lied to from different directions. That kept them separated, that kept them confused, and that allowed Veda and Perry to spend the money without anyone asking the right question. This is one of the biggest lessons from the story. Dishonest people do not always need everyone to believe the same lie. Sometimes they only need each person to believe a different piece of the lie. Brynna believed she had lost her seat. Grandpa believed she was attending clinicals. Perry believed she deserved the wedding. Veda believed her excuses were more important than the truth. And because nobody had the full picture, the theft kept moving. Now let's talk about Veda, because she is one of the most dangerous kinds of family villains. She does not start by shouting. She starts by softening her voice. She says Brynna is tired. She says Brynna is bitter. She says Perry needs one beautiful day. She says family comes first. On the surface, these words sound emotional, but underneath, they are weapons. When Veda says Brynna is tired, she is not caring about Brynna's health. She is trying to make Brynna doubt her own mind. When she says Brynna is bitter, she is not describing the truth. She is trying to turn Brynna's question into a personality flaw. When she says Perry needs one beautiful day, she is trying to make theft sound like compassion. That is manipulation with a gentle face. And this kind of manipulation works because many people are trained to respect calm cruelty when it comes from a parent. If a mother cries, people pause. If a mother says she was only trying to protect the family, people want to believe her. If a mother says one child is strong and the other is fragile, people often accept that unfair division as normal. But the story shows us something important. Softness does not make a lie innocent. Tears do not cancel fraud. A loving voice does not make a stolen future less stolen. Perry's role is different, but just as ugly. Perry is not the mastermind in the same way Veda is, but she is not innocent. Her insults show what she really thinks of Brynna. She calls Brynna almost everything. Almost a nurse. Almost successful. Almost moving forward. That is not random cruelty. That is Perry trying to reduce Brynna before the truth can raise her back up. Because if Perry admits Brynna had a real future, then Perry has to admit she used that future for a wedding. So Perry does what entitled people often do. She attacks the value of the person she took from. That is a very important point. Some people cannot steal from you unless they first convince themselves you did not deserve what they stole. Perry tells herself Brynna would not have finished nursing school anyway. She tells herself the money would have been wasted. She tells herself her wedding is more meaningful than Brynna's education. But if that were true, why did she need a fake signature? Why did she need a fake email? Why did she need a fake story for Grandpa? That is why Brynna's line is so powerful. If I was going to waste the money, why did you need my name to take it? That one question destroys Perry's defense. Because the fake signature proves they knew permission mattered. The fake email proves they knew access mattered. The fake forms prove they knew Brynna would not agree. The lie itself proves the guilt. Now let's discuss Brynna's behavior, because this is where the revenge feeling becomes satisfying. Brynna does not become wild. She does not run into the wedding screaming. She does not make a messy public accusation with nothing in her hands. She does what strong people do when they finally stop being convenient. She documents. She checks. She collects. She compares. She gets the college records. She talks to Quilla. She gets Merritt involved. She lets a document examiner study the handwriting. She turns emotional pain into a clean timeline. This is not passive. This is controlled power. A lot of people confuse calmness with weakness. But in this story, calmness is strategy. Brynna understands something her family does not. Emotion can be denied, but paper can be examined. If she only says, you hurt me, Veda can call her dramatic. If she says, you stole from me, Perry can call her jealous. But when she places the tuition receipt, the fake deferment, the refund record, and the wedding invoice in front of everyone, the conversation changes. It is no longer about mood, it is about evidence. That is the heart of this story. Proof is the language that manipulation cannot easily translate. The public reveal at the rehearsal dinner is not just for drama. It has a purpose. Some people might ask, Why did Brynna expose it at the wedding venue? Why not handle it quietly? The answer is simple. The lie was already being displayed publicly. The stolen money was in the dress, the flowers, the venue, the candles, and the slideshow that said, "A dream paid in love." Perry turned Brynna's future into a public celebration. So Brynna had every right to bring the truth into the same room. This is not cruelty. This is correction. When a lie has been given a stage, the truth sometimes needs a microphone. And notice how Brynna does not reveal everything at once. She uses enough. That is smart. She does not drown the room in documents. She shows the cleanest proof. One receipt, one forged form, one refund record, one wedding invoice. That makes the truth easy to follow. It also prevents Veda from saying Brynna is confused or overwhelmed. The proof is simple. The timeline is simple. Grandpa paid. Brynna did not receive the benefit. Her enrollment was canceled. The refund moved. The wedding was paid. That is why the room goes silent. Silence in that scene is important. It shows the moment when the family story dies. Before that dinner, Veda controlled the narrative. Perry controlled the image. Brynna was the tired sister, the jealous sister, the almost successful sister. But when the documents appear, the roles reverse. Brynna becomes the only person speaking clearly. Perry becomes the one panicking. Veda becomes the one explaining. And Grandpa becomes the witness who finally sees what was done in his name and with his love. Orson's reaction is also worth discussing. He could have protected Veda. Many parents do that. They see proof and still choose the child who lied because admitting the truth feels too painful. But Orson chooses reality. That makes him honorable. He does not pretend the evidence is unclear. He does not blame Brynna for exposing it. He does not say, "Let's keep this inside the family." He understands that hiding the truth would make him part of the damage. That is a hard lesson for many families. Peace without truth is not peace, it is management. It is a cover. It is a room full of people stepping around the same wound and calling that loyalty. True loyalty does not protect the thief from the person they stole from. True loyalty protects the truth, even when the truth embarrasses someone you love. Now let's talk about the most painful line from Veda. "I protected one daughter because the other was strong enough to survive." This line explains the whole family disease. Brynna was punished for being strong. Perry was rewarded for being fragile. Veda did not see Brynna's strength as something to respect. She saw it as something to use. She believed Brynna could absorb loss, so she gave Brynna more loss. She believed Perry needed beauty, so she gave Perry someone else's future. This happens in many families in different ways. One child is called responsible, so everyone takes from them. One child is called sensitive, so everyone protects them from consequences. One child is expected to understand. The other is allowed to demand. Over time, the responsible child becomes a resource, not a person. That is what Brynna finally rejects. Her response is powerful because she does not beg Veda to love her fairly. She names the truth. "You did not protect Perry. You taught her my life was something she could spend." That line is not only emotional, it is precise. Veda did not save Perry. She damaged Perry too. She taught her entitlement. She taught her that love means access to someone else's sacrifice. She taught her that if you want something badly enough, another person's dream can become your budget. That is not protection. That is moral failure. The fake letters make the betrayal even more disturbing. Think about what those letters did. They told Grandpa that Brynna was attending school. They told him she was grateful. They told him his money was working. They made him proud of a moment that never happened. That means Veda and Perry were not only stealing from Brynna, they were also stealing from Orson emotionally. They gave him fake joy. They made him love a false story. They used his generosity as fuel for their fraud. That is why this story is not just about money. It is about identity. Brynna's name was used without her consent. Her dream was used without her permission. Her relationship with Grandpa was used without her knowledge. Her silence was used as evidence that everything was fine. That is a deeper form of violation. A person's name is not just letters on a form. It carries trust. It carries reputation. It carries legal power. it carries future choices. When someone signs your name, they are not only copying handwriting, they are stepping into your life and making decisions as if they own it. That is why Brynna's final boundary matters. No one will use her name again without her consent. This is not a small statement. It is her reclaiming legal, emotional, and personal ownership of herself. The ending is satisfying because Brynna does not become cruel. She does not spend the rest of her life trying to destroy Perry. She does not turn into the kind of person who hurt her. She simply removes access. That is mature revenge. She returns to nursing school. She cuts her hospital hours. She keeps her dignity. She lets the legal process handle the consequences. She does not need to chase them anymore because the record is already chasing them. That is a strong life lesson. Sometimes the best revenge is not constant fighting. Sometimes it is building a case, setting a boundary, and walking back into the future they tried to cancel. The scholarship at the end also gives the story a larger meaning. Orson turns pain into access for others. He cannot erase what happened to Brynna, but he can make sure other hospital workers get a bridge into nursing. That is not a soft ending. That is a disciplined ending. It says the stolen money will not be the final symbol. The final symbol will be a door opening for someone else. But we should be clear. Good things coming later do not excuse the people who caused the harm. Healing is not the same as forgetting. Moving forward is not the same as pretending. Brynna keeps the fake form because she understands something very adult. Time can make pain blurry. And when pain becomes blurry, manipulative people try to come back through the soft edges. Keeping the record is not bitterness. It is clarity. So what should the audience take from this story? First, ask questions when details do not match. Grandpa's question about clinicals sounded small, but it exposed the whole lie. Sometimes one strange sentence is the loose thread that opens the truth. Second, never let someone shame you for asking about your own money, your own records, or your own future. If your name is on it, you have the right to know. Third, pay attention when someone answers a factual question with an emotional accusation. Brynna asked about tuition. Veda called her bitter. That was not an answer. That was a diversion. Fourth, keep documents. Emails, forms, receipts, screenshots, account changes, dates, and signatures matter. In emotional families, memory can be manipulated. Records are harder to bully. Fifth, being strong does not mean being available for exploitation. If people only praise your strength when they need you to accept less, they are not honoring you. They are using you. And finally, do not let anyone turn your future into family property. Your education, your career, your savings, your signature, your time, and your dream belong to you. Blood does not give someone the right to spend your life and call it love. Brynna's story works because it is not just revenge. It is restoration. She restores the truth. She restores her name. She restores her path to nursing school. She restores the relationship with Grandpa that was poisoned by fake letters. And most importantly, she restores her own belief that she was not the reason her life had been delayed. That is the emotional center of the story. Brynna was not behind because she was weak. She was behind because someone moved the road and told her to walk harder. And when she finally found the map, she did not scream at the road. She showed everyone who moved it. That is why the reveal feels earned. That is why the ending feels peaceful. And that is why this story leaves us with one hard truth. When people benefit from your silence, they will call your questions disrespectful. Ask anyway, read the forms, check the signatures, follow the money. Because sometimes the life you think you lost was not lost at all. Someone took it, renamed it, and spent it in a room full of flowers. The end